Are you even asking the right questions as you are about to make the transition into retirement? One of those questions is, should I roll over my 401k? And I want to share with you in this video three of the most important questions you need to ask so you can take control of this next chapter and not make a monumental mistake. Before we get there, please subscribe to our channel, hit the notifications bell so you'll be alerted to when we post new videos. So I'm going to make an admission right up front. I don't believe our industry has served you well. And what I mean by that is the focus of so many of the conversations, the advice, the guidance, the ads are all about how to invest, how to grow your money, which stocks to invest in, which funds to invest in, how to grow your money. In essence, so you have enough of a retirement nest egg to retire. But we do a lousy job of telling you what to do once you've accumulated that money. And it's important for you to understand the difference between financial planning during your working years and financial planning when you go to retire. And that's where we're going to focus today. So just a little background, and I've talked about this on a number of our videos. There's the difference between the accumulation stage and the distribution stage in financial planning. The accumulation stage during your working years, which is the conversation most of you have with your financial advisors, is focused squarely on what are the investments, how much did the money grow, how much risk am I going to take, go, go, go. But that all changes when you get to the distribution stage and you go to retirement. It's no longer about per se growing the money. It's about getting the necessary income and not taking more risk than you should on your portfolio. And that's why we developed our 7-step process for our clients to help them walk through this. And this is where I want to share with you some of those conversations that we have with our clients that really are steeped more in the conversation of planning than investing. So within your 401k plan that you've had so far, you've had an assortment of investments. You may have more, in a self-directed IRA. I don't know, it usually is the case, but it's not always the case. So the real question is, how do you manage this money now? Because for so many during their working years, they sort of set it and forget it. They just sort of let it fly. But now that you have to think about generating income, you probably need to take a look at your asset allocation. Think about income generating assets as much as growth generating assets. And the big goal may shift now to protecting the principal and generating the income. So you really have to decide how you want to manage the money. The second thing within this big question of the risk you're going to take is, have you even identified the amount of risk that you need? And within the 401k plan, much of your success and failure, and if you've done it on your own, has been, well, how did the stock market do? And therefore, how did I do against it? That's not how we do it in the planning world. It's called the personalized investment benchmark. And that's where you really get a sense from the planning, what income do I need? How much risk do I need to take in order to generate that income? And then go find the investments that are appropriate for me. With the 401k, it all starts with the investment. With the rollover or the IRA or working with an advisor, it should start more with a planning conversation about income. And again, that's where I think the industry has done you wrong. We haven't told you how to make that shift and how to do this new style of plan. And finally, within this world of investing and taking on the appropriate amount of risk, one of the good things in the 401k plan is, for many, they put it in there and it was passive investing. In other words, they chose the default, they chose the target date fund, they chose 6 or 8 different funds that they thought they were managing on an ongoing basis, but sort of kind of just contributed to it and let it go. That's passive investing. Nothing wrong with it. Many people like to passively invest and never touch it. But I would submit to you again, now that you're going into this new phase, this distribution phase, this retirement phase, you may want to take a look like we do with our clients at being a little bit more active with the management of the money to make sure you're still on target with your retirement income and lifestyle goals. And again, that's a very different way of investing the money and thinking about it than it was when you were in the 401k. So these are considerations within that big question you have to ask about what kind of risk and how you're going to manage your money. Is a 401k still good for you, or do I roll it over? The next big question, second one out of 3, is will your surviving spouse and your family be impacted because you did or did not roll the money over? So one big consideration when it comes to the decision as to whether or not you're going to keep it in the 401k or roll it to the IRA is the beneficiary designation. And for most people, they never touched it since they set it up. The spouse was the, primary beneficiary, and maybe Aunt Molly, because we didn't have kids at the time, was the contingent beneficiary, the secondary beneficiary. But Aunt Molly died like 12 years ago, and you never changed it, right? With the IRA, you typically, not all the time, but typically have more planning choices in terms of who you designate as beneficiaries and more language available to complement your estate planning to make sure that you're taking care of your surviving spouse and the rest of your family. Another part of this question is with regards to whether or not your 401k has the ability or provides you with the option of taking it as a pension. And that's a big discussion which you really have to think about very hard in terms of whether or not you wish to roll the whole lump sum into the IRA, or you want to take it as a pension. And there's pros and cons to that. We've got a specific video designated just to that topic, but this is an irrevocable decision. And the answer oftentimes lies in the planning for this action, which will then guide you, that 7-step process, towards whether or not you're better off to take the lump sum as a rollover or take the pension. Again, which is better? The 401k, keep it there, or the IRA? You have to think about that. And when you're thinking about all of this, the question you're really asking is, are you prepared for retirement right now? And I would suggest to you, you may want to go up to our banner and take our quiz. Are you ready to retire? 2-minute quiz. Once you've filled it out, we'll send you a score depending upon which of the 3 stages of retirement preparedness you are in. Will get you that number. I'll also send you the first chapter of my new book, which deals with not outliving your money, 7 key steps. And I'll also send you a couple of worksheets so you gain some more clarity and a little bit more control over this process. Now, I just mentioned, it's the last one. It's a big one. What's the number one question people have as they go to retire? Will I outlive my money? And as you now consider whether or not you should roll over your 401k or 403b or 457 plan, whichever retirement plan you have, into an IRA, you really need to step back and ask some other questions with regards to the income. Because whether you keep it in the 401 or the IRA, you have to decide what investment choices are best for you. And that's driven by how much income you need. And that income decision can oftentimes be driven by which of the 567 different Social Security choices you can make. People leave upwards of $200,000 on the table over their lifetimes if they make the wrong decision. There's also the consideration of the required minimum distribution at age 72. When are you going to take it? How much is it going to be? Should you take it early? What options do you have? All of this comes into play when we think about will I run out of money? Another big consideration is your health. And again, making the decision about your Social Security, whether or not, if you retire early, whether you should be taking it out before age 59 and a half, whether or not you're better off to designate different beneficiaries or a trust as your primary beneficiary, whether or not your 401k will allow that type of language or whether you're better off to do it with an IRA. Health considerations are also very important when it comes into play as to whether or not you're going to move it or not. And finally, taxes. We've talked about whether or not if you leave it in the 401k, you may get some benefit if you retired early and avoid the 10% early withdrawal penalty. You may have more flexibility in your IRA as to when or how much you take money out. But taxes are a big consideration because the more money that we generate, the less taxes we pay, the better, right? And that's all part, again, of our 7-step process. But these are all the types of considerations that you need to be thinking about when you consider, should I roll over my 401k? And for more about our 7-step process, make sure you take a look at our playlist above.